There's no better time to experience a Lexus than with the Lexus all-wheel drive event. Your epic journeys don't end with icy roads. You won't be thwarted by snow-covered highways because you're on a mission to get third graders to a toboggan hill. Experience inspired design and performance with Lexus during the Lexus all-wheel drive event.
Lease a 2019 Lexus NX300 for as low as 0.9% APR with delivery credits up to $2,500. Visit your local Lexus dealer for details.
This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Ping.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Dr. Anne Marie Evers Show. The doctor is in the house. Do 2 affirmations and call me in the morning. Change your life one new thought at a time. Make your dreams come true. Attract that lasting, loving relationship. Successful career. Radiant health and abundant wealth. Tune in to the Dr. Anne Marie Evers Show and learn positive ways to get what you want on www.contacttalkradio.com.
And welcome to the Dr. Anne Marie Evers Show, where dreams really can and do come true. And today, I have a very special guest in the new year, starting the new year right, and Garnet Schulhauser, and he's been on the show before a couple of times, more than a couple, I think, and he's also got another new book out we're going to be talking about, and really exciting things. So welcome to the show, and Happy New Year to you, Garnet, and your family.
Happy New Year to you, Dr. Ann, and thanks for having me back again. I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you. Yes, and you got quite, I was thinking about you the other day, and I was thinking, I used to work in law. I used to be a paralegal, and I was thinking you really had quite a difference to what you were doing in the legal, didn't you, to what you are doing now, aren't you?
Absolutely. It was almost a total change. Before, I was a corporate lawyer in Calgary, and I was very much of a straight-laced, button-down, stuffed shirt kind of a guy.
Really?
Very uptight, very arrogant, condescending.
Wow.
And I admit that freely. That's how I was. And then after I met my straight guy, Albert, things just took an entirely different change in direction. And now I don't think that I know I'm not the same way I was before. I'm much more enlightened, empathetic, and I'm really enjoying my new path in life.
And how does your family feel about that? Do you ever have any like sometimes my family thinks, affirmations. My mom's always talking about affirmations. What do your family feel about what you're doing, Garnet?
Oh, they're very happy. My wife is very happy because she's very much likes the new Garnet that's not stressed out.
Oh, she likes the new one. That's so good.
Likes the new one and really encourages me in terms of my new path, in terms of the spirituality. She's very spiritual herself, so it wasn't something that she would sort of roll her eyes at. It was sort of like, well, you finally sort of caught up to me, buddy.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
And what about some of your law associates? Do they kind of accept what you're telling them, or do you share that with them a lot?
A mixed bag. Some of them basically have shunned me, and they sort of, although they haven't told me to my face, I think they probably think I've lost my mind. But there's others who have sort of secretly sent me emails to congratulate me on coming out of the spiritual closet and writing my books. And so it's a bit of a mixed bag, which is what I expected. But, overall, I've lost some friends, but I gained a whole lot more new ones. And so it's been overall, it's been a very rewarding experience.
Rewarding experience, yes, I can imagine. Now, this new book, you've just got it out called The Dance of Eternal Rapture. Mm-hmm. And I was reading that. That's quite a very interesting book, just like the rest of them. Now, is this the third or fourth book? Fourth.
This is the fourth book, yeah.
Yeah, the first one was, which one again?
Dancing on a Stamp.
Dancing on a Stamp, and then Dance of Heavenly Bliss.
Dance of Heavenly Bliss was the third one. Second book was Dancing Forever with Spirit.
Oh, Dancing Forever with Spirit. Okay, and then, so this is the fourth. And is it that you're doing them because there's too much to put in one, so you're doing them sort of like introducing the world to them sort of one at a time?
Yeah, that's more or less the idea. If I threw them all into one, it might be just too much, and people wouldn't read them all the way through. What Albert told me was try to put them into a nice bite-sized pieces of things so that people can get through them quickly and then think about it and try to absorb it rather than have one sort of big huge volume. So it was all his scheme.
Yeah, because people don't really. I think we want instant everything these days, don't we?
Yes, and so that's why having the sort of the bite-sized pieces is a good idea, I think.
Oh, I think it's a great idea. Now let's talk about the Dance of Eternal Rapture. Do you want to go through and just briefly talk about the other books, so just a little bit about them, and then go into this one?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, my adventure with Albert, my spirit guide, started way back in 2007. I was still practicing law in Calgary. Excuse me.
Wow, that's not too long ago.
Yeah, and I was walking down the street one day, and all of a sudden, seemingly out of nowhere, a homeless man jumped in front of me and stopped me in my tracks. And instead of going around him, which I usually did with these homeless people that I encountered on the street, I stood there because there was something very different about him. He had these amazing, dazzling, sparkling blue eyes. He seemed to be, first of all, sort of, his gaze was penetrating deep within me, right down to the depths of my soul, and I felt that he knew everything about me, everything I'd ever said or done in my life, and which I found a bit strange because we'd never met before. And
you never felt that about anyone else, have you?
No, not at all. But the good thing about it was, at the same time, he was sending me this, what I felt was like a gush of pure unconditional love that was emanating from his eyes and infusing my whole body with an amazing sense of peace and security and well-being.
That's beautiful.
It was the most wonderful feeling I've ever felt in my life. And it was like, this is great. I don't know how long I stood there. It was like a time warp. And then eventually he broke the spell by saying to me, "Why are you here?" And then he quickly disappeared into a nearby store. And then when I finally sort of collected my wits and I looked around, I thought, well, I better go and find this guy. I need to know who he was. So I went into the store to try to find him. He was nowhere to be seen. I went back in the street, walked up and down for several blocks, hoping to spot him, but he had basically disappeared into thin air.
Wow.
So that night, I thought about the encounter, and I knew that I really had to find out who this guy was. And so the next day, I went back to the same street at the same time, hoping that maybe by coincidence he might be there again. And I walked up and down for several blocks, about to lose hope, when I saw him sitting all alone on a bench. So I walked up to him and I said, "Who are you, and why did you stop me the other day?" And he said, "I'm a soul just like you. I'm here to answer your questions and help you on your journey."
Wow.
But then
nice.
That was nice, except I couldn't turn off my skeptical lawyer brain entirely, Dr. Ann. And so once a lawyer, always a lawyer. So I said to him, "Well, why do you think you can help me when you can't even help yourself? Because you look like you've been sleeping on the street for weeks, and you smell like a dead fish." Well, he just gave me a big smile, and he said, "Looks can be deceiving, because you look like you're a very successful corporate lawyer with everything under control, but we both know that's just a facade." He said, "You know what? If you want to turn around and go back to your office and see if you can find all the answers you've been seeking on all those emails waiting for you on your computer, or you can sit down and chat with me."
I'd sit down and chat with him if I were you.
Yeah, luckily my intuition said, "Yeah, let's sit down and talk to this guy. What do I have to lose? A half an hour to my day?"
Yeah.
And so, excuse me, so I sat down on the bench and we began a conversation, which went off and on for several months, at different times, different places, kind of thing. And I found out initially that his name was Albert, and he was one of my spirit guides. And so we had this dialogue, and I found out later that I was the only one who could see him in physical form. And I could actually touch him. I did touch him. He was there, very solid. I spoke to him. He said no one else could see him at the time. He manifested only for me. And if anybody had been walking by the bench that day when we were sitting there on the street, they would have seen me sitting by myself, talking to myself.
They'd probably think, what's with you? Have you committed or something?
Exactly, yeah. They bring on the straitjacket.
But I wonder why he picked on you. Maybe he picked on you because you were asking for the help, do you think?
Yeah, I certainly was. After I had I was raised as a Roman Catholic, and after I had rejected most of their beliefs and rules in my 30s, I was looking for something else to latch onto, and constantly asking all the big questions in life, like, who am I, why am I here, what happens to me when I die? So that was sort of part of it. The other part of it was that he and I had planned all this before I incarnated. So on the spirit side, when I was planning my life, it was all arranged that he would be my spirit guide and that he would show up at this time and try to make a change in my life. And of course, there's no guarantee when you're planning on the spirit side. You don't know whether those things will actually come to fruition or not.
That's true because of free choice, isn't it?
Yeah, because we all have free will. And so that day, I could have just gone around him, and none of this would have happened. But fortunately, I stood there, and I ended up having a conversation. So we had planned this beforehand. And when I asked him, well, why me? Excuse me. Why are you picking on me to write your books? And why don't you pick up somebody like Stephen King or J.K. Rowling, somebody famous? And he says, well, there's a reason for that. He says, we picked you partly because you had previous lives where you had some writing experience, so we thought that you might be okay about putting my revelations down in writing in a way that people can understand. So that was part of the reason. I'll get the full picture at some day, but he's not telling me the whole thing.
No. And like you say, you could have said, no, I don't want anything to do with this, and run scared away too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Thank God I didn't do that. But I guess he would have had to find somebody else.
Yeah.
But he didn't spring the book thing onto me until we were partway through the initial dialogue, and then he said, I'm not just here to satisfy your curiosity. I want you to write a book about my revelations so everyone will have access to them. And which put me aback a bit because I never dreamed of writing a book. But anyway, he's very gently persuasive. And after a while, I threw in the towel, and actually, a year after I met him, I retired from law because it just didn't seem to be relevant to me anymore after talking to Albert. And then I had to struggle for a while as to whether I'm going to write this book or not. Finally, I did. Then when I finished the dialogue, it was sort of a question of, okay, should I just throw this in a drawer somewhere and lock it up, or should I find a publisher? Because I knew that if I published it, that a lot of people, my former law partners and clients, a lot of them would think I'd lost my mind. And so I had to struggle with that. At the end, I just said, no, I have to do this, and so I had it published. And that was Dancing on the Staff, my first book. And then after I'd finished that, he came back into my life again in a slightly different fashion. I was soundly asleep in my bed one night, and something made me wake up, and I looked, and standing in the doorway of my bedroom was this ghost-like ethereal figure. And as it moved closer to the bed, I could see, well, here's my old friend Albert, except now he's in astral form, so he's sort of like semi-transparent, opaque. So I said to him, well, Albert, what brings you here? What's up this time? And he says, I'm here to take you on a series of astral trips to the spirit side, to other places on our planet, other planets in the universe, because I want you to write about what you hear and see in your next book. So, and then he just literally reached out, grabbed my astral hand, pulled my astral body out of my physical body. I turned around and looked, and my physical body was still sound asleep in bed. So there I was in astral form. Never happened to me before.
Wow.
He said, come with me, and he just led me up through the ceiling, up through the clouds to a high spot above our beautiful planet, where I got to look back at planet Earth, which from that perspective is just an amazingly beautiful planet. It's just like a jeweled orb hanging in the inky blackness of space. If everyone on Earth, humans, could see our planet from that perspective, they would be a lot more kind to poor old Mother Earth and less abusive,
Did you have any fear at all when you were doing this?
No, because I just felt very confident in Albert's presence, because I had so many conversations with him. I already knew that he was
like a friend already.
Exactly, a very wise friend, and he was always very kind to me. And we chatted like two friends, having a coffee, as opposed to, he didn't lecture me or chastise me. He just understood that I was a human having a soul having a human journey, and that I needed, and that's how he talked to me.
You were kind of protected, you felt, and safe with him.
I felt safe with him, yeah. And then so in the first trip, we then went into the spirit side, and so that was the beginning of my astral trips. We had a number of trips with him. The second book was my first set of astral trips, Dancing Forever with Spirit, and then we had a number of other trips which resulted in my second and my third and fourth books, Dance of Heavenly Bliss, and the last one, Dance of Eternal Rapture. So these are all books about my trips with Albert and people that I met, places that I saw, and they're all designed to hopefully give a lesson to humanity of one form or another, or give them tidbits of wisdom in terms of what's happening to them and all about the cycle of life on Earth and how we can improve ourselves.
And this is interesting. Garnet, but what I feel like is every time you mention his name, it's weird how I get shivers. I don't know, that was a strange kind of happening, but it's just kind of interesting. I just wanted to mention that, you know.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever said that to me before.
No.
You're obviously a special person.
Well, I didn't have this before when I spoke to you, but this time it's real there, and it's like my legs and my arms feel shivers, and that was kind of, you know, I'm thinking, oh, what's happening here, right?
I think Albert's saying hello to you.
Yeah, I say, hi, Albert. Well, nice to meet you. Now, so then we come up to the fourth book, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And this is sort of like understanding who we are on the human journey, isn't it?
Yes.
And we're getting ageless wisdom from the spiritual realm here, so we need to listen up. So now, on one of your first trips with Albert, you met how do you say that? Mohammed, yeah. Mohammed, yes.
Yeah.
The prophet and founder of Islam. And what did he tell you? Can you share that with us?
Yeah, absolutely. He was, and Albert took me to meet him on the spirit side. And of course, Mohammed was a master soul, still is a master soul, who incarnated on Earth centuries ago, as we know the history books tell us. And he did so he didn't incarnate because he needed to learn anything himself. He was a very advanced soul. He incarnated to try to help humans on Earth, in the Middle East area, and he hoped that he could sort of start a movement or a religion to help people become better humans and stifle their negative emotions. So that was his mission. He ended up doing that. He started Islam, and Islam, of course, is I think the second most popular religion on our planet behind Christianity. So it has spread. Largely, to a great degree over a lot of parts of the earth. Now, but one of the things he said was he thought that his religion, for the most part, was doing some very good things for the people who followed it, but he was upset with two aspects of it. And one of them was, he says that in a lot of countries, in Islamic countries, they're very patriotic societies who are very controlling and sometimes even abusive to women. Mm-hmm. And he said, some countries they have to wear, head coverings or full body coverings. Some countries the girls cannot get education or even get a job, and they're very much, to our outlook here in Western society, they're really being abused and subjugated. And he says that was never his intention. He never preached that. He always believed that women were equal to men in all respects, and he was really upset at how men in some countries were using religion as an excuse to subjugate women. And he felt really badly about that, and he wished that never happened, and he never intended that. And so he was really upset with that aspect of Islam. And the other aspect he didn't really like was how some terrorists are using religion as an excuse to inflict terror and war and conflicts and abuse on other countries, other people of other different religions. And he said he never preached violence, just like Jesus Christ never preached violence or anger or encouraged conflict. He didn't either, and he says that's really disgraceful that these people are using religion as an excuse to do all these horrible things. And so
yes, I think that's so true too. Garnet, that is. And
so I was very enlightened because he's a very wise and loving soul. I said to him, do you wish you could go back to Earth and try to correct some of these places where your religion has gone off track? And he said, yeah, he sort of would like to, but he's just waiting for the right time and instructions from the Council of Wise Ones to see if that's appropriate. But he's sitting here on the spirit side and watching all this, and although he's proud of a lot of aspects of his religion, he's really upset at those two aspects and wish that they did not occur. But that's what happens with humanity. Sometimes they stay on track, sometimes they go off track.
Oh yes, we know that, don't we?
Yeah, very well.
Yeah. Wow. So, anything else that we need to know about what he said?
No, I think those are the two important takeaways that I took, and I hope that someday the people who, if anybody practicing that religion who hears what he told me, I hope they take it to heart.
I hope so too. Yes. And now, tell us about your second meeting with. How do you say that? Gaia?
You can say Gaia or Gaia. I say Gaia.
Gaia. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
The consciousness of Mother Earth. That Mother Earth must be really upset with all that's going on, right?
Boy, that's an understatement, Dr. Ann.
Wow.
Yeah, Gaia is the consciousness of Mother Earth. I mean, our planet is just not a conglomeration of inert molecules. I mean, it has a consciousness, always has. Most people aren't aware of that. But I got to speak to Gaia. Albert arranged that. And Gaia is a very kind and loving spirit who's very fond and very protective of all of her animals and plants and everything else and her environment on Mother Earth. And her message to me was she's very upset that humans have been so abusive of Mother Earth over especially the last couple hundred years.
Yes,
after the Industrial Revolution with our pollution. And she said, you guys, this is your home. Planet Earth is your home. Why are you abusing it? Why are you polluting it? Why are you, messing up the atmosphere and the water and the soil and everything else?
Yeah.
And it's not only is it not good for you, it's really hard on the rest of my creatures because I value my other creatures just as much as I value humans.
Yes.
Humans tend to think that they're very special and that they're the only species and race that counts on planet Earth. She says no, that's just human arrogance saying that because she really values all of her other creatures in the same way. And our pollution harms them. Not only that, we directly abuse other creatures. We hunt them for sport, we trap them, we kill them, we imprison them, and that's all things that should not happen according to Gaia, and she's very upset with us. And so her message to me was, go back to and tell your fellow humans that this course of action has to stop because our pollution and so on is leading to a lot of bad things what people call climate change. That's really Gaia trying to wake us up by giving us more natural disasters like hurricanes and floods and tornadoes and wildfires and whatever. And she has the ability to actually manipulate and increase these to some degree. And she's doing this, has done that over the last number of years to try to wake us up, to shoot a warning shot across our bow to tell us that if we don't change our ways, it could end very badly.
Do you think we will change our ways?
I think
we as a planet,
I think there's hope for that, Dr. Ann. I think that we've changed our ways to a large degree over the last 10, 20 years, way more so than 100 years ago. But I think we have a long ways to go. But clearly, more and more people are becoming aware of the fact that we have to curb our abuse to Mother Earth and to the other creatures on our planet. And slowly but surely, and it's sort of like one step at a time, one person at a time, we can actually make the change. And according to Albert, he's optimistic that we can eventually do that.
Yes, and in my nightly prayer, I always pray for Mother Earth because I think she really needs it, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And that was your second meeting with her, wasn't it? Isn't that what you said?
Yeah, it was the second meeting. I had met with her, which I described in my, I believe it was my third book, and basically the message was more or less the same. One of the things that she the new thing that she told me in the second meeting was that, of course, the goal for all humans on planet Earth is to raise our vibrations so that we can ascend up to Earth at a higher vibration, the new Earth or 5D Earth. And she says that she is trying to get her planet, Mother Earth, to actually raise its vibrations to sort of ascend up and merge with the new Earth. But what's holding her back is all the negativity of humans on her planet, and so that's sort of holding back her increase to her vibrations. But she wants to move up into a higher dimension as well, like the whole planet. And so that was just something new that she added, was that you guys should all try to ascend to the new Earth. But if you guys change your ways and curb your negativity, then I too can get there.
Oh, she's working with the folk, with all us then. Isn't that
exactly.
Right? Yeah.
She's encouraging all of us to make the ascension so that she can too as well.
That's great. Now, and on what occasion I remember that you communicated telepathically with a dolphin. Now, I've heard dolphins are very intelligent. Is that true? And can you tell us a little bit about your conversation with the dolphin?
Yeah, in fact, they are extremely intelligent, way more so than humans give them credit for. And in fact, some ways they're more intelligent and more intellectually developed than humans because they can communicate by telepathy. They do so with each other. They can also communicate with their cousins on other planets. Like in my second book, I describe a trip that I made with Albert to a water planet called Proteus, many light years away, and it was entirely covered with water, no land masses. There I had a conversation with a dolphin and a humpback whale, who had said they communicated with their kin on Earth. And this dolphin here on Earth reiterated that, saying, yeah, they talked to those people on that planet, which is where most of the sea life on Earth was originally seeded from. And, his message to me was, look at dolphins, we appreciate our place on Mother Earth. We don't pollute it. We don't abuse Mother Earth. We don't abuse other creatures or each other. And we really like to live in peace and harmony with humans. But we find it difficult because humans have been so abusive over the centuries. They trap and kill us. They try. We get caught up in their fishing nets. They put us in water parks where people where we're supposed to do silly tricks to please the people who come there to watch it.
Jump and perform tricks and things
perform
like
tricks.
that.
Yeah, and they say that's not right. We should be left free to roam the oceans freely without being worried about being hunted or trapped or abused, and we just want to live in peace and harmony with humans. And we don't understand why humans can't get that message, or why humans cannot hear what we're telling them, and they're projecting their communications telepathically to us, except humans don't hear it. And humans not only don't hear them, we can't communicate telepathically with each other. So in that sense, we're sort of way far behind them in that advancement. So
I think I remember one reading somewhere where one lady was swimming and the dolphins were going close to her breast, and then she went and had it checked, and she did have a beginning of breast cancer. So they actually saved her life by kind of letting her know. So that's pretty wonderful.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. And I totally believe that, and they really do want to get along with humans and help us. But their plea is, look, humans, can you stop your abuse and let us live our lives peacefully in the open oceans like we are intended to?
Yeah, that's for sure. Now, I know we don't, I'm kind of watching the time because I want to get a lot in. Now, I know you met with Robin Williams on the spirit side, and what did he have to say to you? That he played on Mrs. Doubtfire, didn't he?
Yeah, well, Robin Williams is one of my favorite comedians.
Me too. I really liked it.
I really enjoyed him. So anyway, as you know, he committed suicide.
Yes.
So I was speaking to him on the spirit side. He said, he really regrets doing that. He did so because he didn't want to face some of the challenges he was facing, and so that was the sort of the easy exit for him. He says he shouldn't have done that. He regrets doing it. But what happened was he had been abusing drugs and alcohol for a large part of his life, and then he was suffering from depression. And he eventually he began to financially run out of money, even though he had made a lot of money, but his lifestyle and that of his family was chewing up a lot of money. And so he was being pressured into doing another Mrs. Doubtfire movie. And he said he did not want to do that. He just really didn't want to do that, but he felt like he may have to do it financially to keep on going. And so he was depressed about that. He had been depressed for a long time, but he didn't seek any help. And then the last straw was when he was diagnosed with Parkinson's. And that was sort of like, he said, well, okay, well, this is it. I can't do it anymore. So he committed suicide. What he said to me was that people who are suffering from depression, they need to be open about it. They need to, instead of keeping it to themselves, they need to talk to family and friends. They need to get medical help because there is always hope. And if you talk to other people about it, it can change your life. And he says that's what he didn't do. He kept it to himself. And it ended up in his suicide, and he's saying to people that are feeling the same way, go and get some help because you can be helped.
And don't keep it hidden.
Exactly.
Like some great family secret.
Yeah, exactly. Don't keep it hidden. Open it up, and your friends and family can help you if they know what you're going through. And so he said suicide was not the right exit for him, and he wished he hadn't done it, but it happened. So now he was there saying, okay, well, I didn't sort of face the challenges that I had intended, and I took the easy way out, and now I'm going to have to sort of plan my next life and try to face those challenges again and see if I can overcome them.
Yeah, so if you didn't do it, you got to do it all over again.
Exactly, until you get it right.
Yeah. Now, on another trip to the spirit side, you met with Mary Magdalene. What did you learn from her?
She was a lovely soul.
I bet she was. Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful, very kind, generous, and so. And again, Albert took me to meet her, and I said to her, are you upset over the fact that over the centuries, Some people have labeled you as a woman of ill repute, even a prostitute. She says, yeah, she's aware of that, but she says totally wrong. She says that that was never anything anywhere close to what she actually was. She says the reason they did that was because she was actually a very close confidant of Jesus Christ. In fact, his closest confidant and advisor. And the leaders of the church, not too long after Christ was crucified, they decided when they were looking at the Gospels that they didn't want to have a woman as being sort of higher than the rest of the apostles, because women weren't supposed to have prominent positions in society in those days. So they basically wrote out the fact that she was a close confidant and, in fact, the wife of Jesus Christ. They didn't want her to be to have that sort of exalted position in Christianity, and so that's what they did. And so. And as part of that, they thought, well, how can we denigrate her even further? Well, some people said she had been a prostitute. She says totally wrong. She married Jesus. She was totally a virgin when she married Jesus Christ. They had they had 3 children actually together. All of that was written out of the Gospels in the New Testament, just for the reason that they didn't want her to have that exalted position. And so she says, it's unfortunate that happened. But she understands the mentality, the patriotic mentality of the time, where men felt that only men could be prominent. Yeah. So she was just sort of, with a few strokes of the pen, she was written out and given a very low position in the life of Jesus Christ.
Yes, I know. And also on another trip to the spirit side, you had a conversation with the soul who had lived on Earth, but later made the ascension to the new Earth. Can you tell us about that, and what is the new Earth?
Okay. Well, first of all, the new Earth is our planet in a higher dimension, higher vibrational dimension. Okay, and so it's I made a trip there with Albert one time. It is described in my second book, and it's there. It's sort of like there's no negative emotions, there's no violence or crime or hate. Nobody has to work. Everything's provided, and it's a very peaceful society, which is very much different from our current one. But the thing is that place has a higher vibrational rate than our planet Earth, and the only way that people can get there is to raise their vibrations to a level that matches the new Earth.
Some people call that heaven?
No, it's not heaven. It's still in the physical plane, except that it's just a much nicer place than our planet Earth. And so it's not as a high level as, say, a heaven or spirit side. It's still in the physical realm, but a much nicer place than. And people there still need to eat and breathe and procreate, and it's very much of a physical place, but a much nicer place than our Earth, where there's no violence or crime or negativity. And people there live for several hundred years because they basically eradicated disease, and they learned how to fix traumatic injuries. And so it's just a very lovely sort of a idyllic kind of place, but still on the physical dimension, so that those people, when their physical bodies die, eventually their souls leave and go up further to the spirit side. So New Earth's a wonderful place, a place that we should all aspire to get to. And so this lady, she was a young lady who had a husband and a couple of children who she loved very much. And one day, her whole world was torn asunder because a drunk driver T-boned her husband and 2 children in their car, killing them all suddenly. And so this poor lady, she was just her whole world was just fell apart. She went from anger to despair and actually had suicidal thoughts. And finally, her friend said to her, well, "Why don't you go to an ashram in India and learn how to meditate, and perhaps that will get you over the hump?" And so she did. And she's sort of like, well, I have nothing else to lose. So she went to this ashram in India, learned how to meditate, and as she learned how to meditate, she soon learned that she needed to make progress. She needed to forgive the driver who killed her family, and she was also angry at God for letting this happen. And then once she got to the point where she could forgive God and forgive the driver who killed her family, then she could easily meditate to a higher level. And one day she was meditating by herself in the garden, and all of a sudden, when she finished, she opened her eyes and she was in a different place. And there she was met by a young man who said, "Welcome to the new Earth." So she had basically made a physical ascension from our Earth to the new Earth. And then when she finished her life on the new Earth, she went back to the spirit side, and so I talked to her there, and she said, she just hopes that every human could do the same sort of ascension. And I said to her, so New Earth is a wonderful place. When you reincarnate, are you going back into a human in the New Earth? And she says, well, I can do that. She says, but I'm going to go back as a human on the old Earth because I think I can help people there try to make the ascension just as I did. So wonderful story about how, it's not an easy course, but you have to sort of really get rid of all of your negative emotions, stifle your negative emotions, fully embrace love and compassion, and then your vibrations will raise. And so that path is open to all of us.
Wow.
We just have to. It's easy to say, but not easy to do, Dr. Ann.
I know. When I was reading that in the book, my heart went out to her to have that happen, to lose your husband and 2 children at the same time. That's just way too much for anybody,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Now, tell us about the soul who became a walk-in. We hear so much about walk-in these days. And did that happen when a young lady was experiencing an NDE, near-death experience?
Yeah, she was a young lady who had just had a fairly normal life, nothing special about her. And she was in a car accident, and she was clinically dead for a short time. And so she basically had an NDE. Her soul went up to the spirit side, and her soul basically had decided that she wanted to have that accident as an exit point from this incarnation, because she had basically learned or encountered everything that she had wanted to. And so rather than let her body just physically die and stay dead, the people on the other side had found another soul who wanted to sort of step into her life, become a walk-in soul. And so that other soul basically came into her physical body, took over her body, and when she came out, it was aroused again. She was alive, and now she had a different soul. And that soul took her on a different course of life. That soul allowed her to develop psychic abilities. She began helping other people, doing readings, helping people understand their journeys. And she became actually eventually quite famous, and actually was on TV doing readings and helping people. And so that was an amazing. And so people who knew this young lady, they would have observed quite a dramatic change in her personality and her goals in life, after the NDE. And that was because basically a new soul came in. Albert says that this does happen, is that walk-ins will frequently happen where one soul is ready to leave and another soul says, well, I'd like to take over that body because I don't need to start from day one as a new baby. I'm going to take over at this stage and then do what I want to do from then on. And so it does happen.
Oh, yeah. That is interesting. And what about on one of your trips you encountered an advanced human civilization that had managed to eradicate all negative conditions from its citizens? What did you learn from this society that you can share with us today on planet Earth on 2019?
Yeah, well, it was on a planet many light years from Earth, but Albert wanted me to see that there are humans on other planets, and some humans are doing very well, and this one was particularly advanced, and they had no crime or violence or anything else because their scientists had learned centuries ago that a lot of the negative emotions that plague humans, like fear, anger, hate, jealousy, greed, and so on, were caused by a defective gene. And so they managed over a number of years through genetic engineering to get rid of this negative gene. And they also got rid of a lot of the genes that are sort of cause hereditary diseases. And so they managed to get rid of that. So these people were, just very loving, peace-loving. They lived in harmony, no violence or crime. And they were all because they didn't have any genetic diseases, they were all very robust, healthy condition. And one of the things that really helped them a lot was their scientists had invented basically what they called a diet pill, if you will, which meant that if they took this pill, they could eat and drink whatever they wanted, and there would be no health problems, no weight gains, no high cholesterol, no nothing.
Wow, wouldn't that be lovely?
Yes, and I said to them, I said, can you give me the formula for this diet pill? Because I sure would love it, But they said, no, we can't do that. And part of it was they had learned that humans love to enjoy their food and their drink and all the other bodily pleasures, and so this diet pill allowed them to do all that without any adverse health consequences. So they're all very slim and trim and fit people, and they really enjoyed life, and they were also very advanced because they could travel between the stars, and they had visited Earth secretly to see what we're going through. And they said, yeah, we were where you were many centuries ago, but we managed to claw our way through into a very nice society. And so there is hope for you, but you're going to have to figure it out for yourself.
Now, one question I have is, are we going to remember who we are? Are you going to remember that who you are, Garnet Schulhauser, or is that just a name and you're the real you all the way? You know what I'm saying?
I'm not sure. I understand that.
Would you, like when you go like different incarnations and that, is that why sometimes people have memories from the past and a little child will say, I lived in that house?
Oh, absolutely.
Is that what I'm saying?
Yeah, we are unique souls, and we're the same souls basically through each incarnation, although we change based upon the experiences we have in each incarnation. So I've lived, according to Albert, a number of lives, different lives on Earth, and some people can get a glimpse of a memory of a previous life, especially children. They can say, well, I remember growing up and living in this particular village in this country or whatever, and most of the time their parents will just say, oh, you're just imagining things, you're dreaming, but really that's probably a memory of a previous life. And so we don't remember our previous lives generally, except a few glimpses here and there. But when we get back to the spirit side, we will remember all of them, and we'll remember all the lives we had and all the lessons we learned and all the challenges we faced.
Well, that would be nice to remember everything. So I often wondered about that, if we'll remember, but I'm glad that we will, right?
Yeah, we will remember everything when we get back to the spirit side, but we are deliberately prevented from remembering them here for the most part, just because remembering all of your previous lives would be too much of a burden in this current life.
Yes, it would be.
If you had like 300 lives, there's chances that in some of those lives you did some very bad things.
Yeah.
And if you had to carry those around with you, all the bad things you've done in 300 lives, it would be overwhelming in this life, and you wouldn't, you send you off course. So that's why we don't remember them.
Oh, that's why. Okay, well, you're listening to the Dr. Anne-Marie Evers Show, where dreams really can and do come true, and where I'm talking to my very special guest, Garnet Schulhauser, and we're talking about information from his brand new book that's just out there called Dance of Eternal Rapture. Now, where can people get this book?
Well, it's available in all the popular online stores like Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and it's available in many bricks and mortar stores. If they go to you can go to, say, Amazon, for example, and type in the book title or my name, it'll pop up, or go to my website, which is garnetschulhauser.com, and I have all the buy links there right on the homepage. You just click on them and you can get right to where you can buy that book and the previous three ones. And so it's readily available. They're all available in ebook format as well, so you can download them to read on Kindle. So they're easy to access, and the easiest way is to just either go to my website or go to Chapters, or to go to Amazon and type in my name or the book title.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you, and we'll be right back after this short break with more with my special guest, Garnet Schulhauser.
When was the last time you read a book that has created a profound impact on your life? This book is touching deep into the hearts of readers worldwide and empowering people with new hope to conquer over a life of despair, loneliness, and sadness. This book is called Affirmations, Your Passport to Happiness by Dr. Anne-Marie Evers. In this book, you'll learn the power of affirmations, creating visualization, goal setting, positive thinking, self-esteem, learn how to attract the perfect, lasting, successful career, relationship, and have optimal health. To order your copy, log on to www.affirmations-doctor.com or email Anne-Marie Evers at shore.ca and get your passport to happiness. Affirmations, Your Passport to Happiness, the book that's giving people positive control over their lives once again.
And welcome back to the Dr. Anne-Marie Evers Show, where dreams, like I always say, really can and do come true. And check out my 70 ways to cope with chemo, and anybody that's going through chemo by going to you can go on there, watch some videos on AnneMarieEvers.com, and check out my books on Amazon, and my other book too, Spark Words. So got quite a few things going on, and now we're back with my special guest, and I wanted to ask you, Garnet, have we so far? Is there anything else you want to add before I ask you two more questions?
No, go ahead, Dr.
Okay. Wanted to ask you, on another one of your astral trips, Albert took you to visit Earth in a parallel universe. Can you share with us, our audience, what you saw there?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that was sort of new to me, but Albert says that there are a number of parallel universes that are sort of like on the same level as planet Earth, but they're on a different dimension, a different universe. And so he took me to one just to demonstrate it. And so it was Earth in a parallel universe. It was the same time frame. It was the same back then. It was like 2017, and he just wanted to demonstrate to me how things were very much the same, but they could be different in a couple of aspects. And so he took me to New York City, Lower Manhattan, and we dropped down there. And I noticed first thing was that the World Trade Towers were still standing. And I said to him, Albert, how can this happen? Because on our Earth, they were demolished by terrorists back in 2001. And he says, well, the reason for that was that due to a quirk in the history of this planet, Islam as a religion did not exist, and there were no Islamic terrorists. What happened was that Mohammed died early from a tragic accident. He fell off his horse before he could establish Islam. And so what happened was that in the Middle East, instead of being predominantly Muslim, it was basically mostly Christian, and because of that, there was no Syrian civil war, there were no crusades because there was no quote infidels occupying the Holy Land, and as a consequence, there was no Islamic terrorists. So because of that, the World Trade Towers were not knocked down in 2001 in that planet. And so very, very different in those respects, just by that one quirk that Muhammad did not live long enough to establish his religion. And so then he took me up the island to what the area that we would call in New York City, Harlem. And he dropped me down right in the middle of Harlem, and he said, okay, do you notice anything different? And I looked around, and the streets were busy with people and cars driving and so on. And then it hit me that there was basically no black people walking on the streets.
Oh.
And I said to him, well, this is Harlem. What's going on? He said, well, another quirk in the history of this planet was that way back in the before America was colonized, Great Britain decided to abolish slavery, and the rest of Europe followed. So therefore, there was never any slave trade from Africa to America. So the slaves weren't brought over, and so then instead of the population of black people in the U.S. being in our Earth like 13%, it was like less than 1% there. So there was never any slave trade. There was never any emancipation of slaves because there weren't any, and there was no civil war because there was no slaves, and there was no civil rights movement. And so because of that, there were black people in the U.S., but just from natural immigration from Africa, not because of the slave trade. So another astounding result from a very small quirk in the history of that planet, which didn't happen on ours.
Mm-hmm. Well, why? Can you kind of explain how that works? It's a planet that is parallel to ours?
Yeah, what happens is that the universe, when it first started off, the source created the universe, sort of what the scientists call the Big Bang. And then what happens is that universe sort of subdivided, sort of not by chance, but just sort of randomly, subdivided into two, and then those two eventually subdivided into four, and so on. And so what happens is that every time, so the universe is basically divide like a cell mitosis, just dividing into two. And as soon as they divide, they're basically identical. But then, because of the random action of energy on matter, there's changes being made, and the action of the creatures who are on the various planets are different because they have free will. And so as time goes on, those universes that were identical soon diverge and become different. And so that's what happened. At some point way back when, our Earth subdivided from from that other parallel Earth, and it was more or less the same, except it was missing a couple of very important features that happened. I'm not saying important as in good, but distinctive features on our planet that didn't happen there.
Wow.
So it's just a matter of universes subdividing.
That's okay. And someone said to me, please ask you this question. He said, ask Garnet if there's any hope for the planet, for the inhabitants of planet Earth, or is everything going to be destroyed by nuclear war? So I know it's quite a loaded question, but I was asked to ask you that.
Okay. Well, yeah, I've been asked that before. I've asked Albert that question. He won't tell me what's happening in the future, but what he did say was he's very optimistic that we can pull out of this, and that we won't end up destroying ourselves with nuclear weapons or other weapons of mass destruction, and that we will eventually see the light slowly but surely, and our violence will eventually decrease, and that we'll start to become more loving and compassionate to each other, to the other creatures, and stop our pollution. It's not going to happen overnight, but he says he's optimistic that we can pull through.
Oh, good. Well, that's some hope for everyone listening, for our listeners. So that's great. Now, and the last question, I saved this till last for you, Garnet, is I know you had another meeting with Jesus Christ. What did he tell you?
Well, he's like Mohammed, he was and is a very advanced master soul. And he incarnated on Earth 2,000 years ago, again, because he didn't need to learn anything himself, but he wanted to help humanity, to give us basically a kick in the pants to get us going up the spiritual ladder. And so that's why he did it. His intention was to spread the message of love, hope, compassion, forgiveness to all humans. And he thought that he did a reasonably good job of it. He understood that they would probably form a religion based upon his teachings, but he wasn't sure exactly how it would go. And he said, for the most part, he's happy with how Christianity has developed. It's helped a lot of people. It's been good in many ways. But he was upset at a number of things that have gone off track. And what happens, of course, is when you're dealing with men and free will actions, they sort of sometimes follow their own agenda as opposed to trying to stick closely with the agenda of Jesus Christ. And so a lot of ways they've gone off the rails, by instigating for example, the Crusades, which were violent episodes. How they killed and maimed and tortured so many people during the various inquisitions. Yeah. All that was done in the name of Jesus Christ, of religion. But he never preached that. He never taught that people should go out and kill or torture people who didn't follow him. That was entirely not his message. But they basically distorted his message and took it on through their own agenda to get what they wanted. So he was very upset about that course of action, and he was also upset about how they were trying to control, and still are in fact, control people through guilt and fear. And so the fear factor was they basically have said, okay, we're telling you what God's rules are. If you don't follow God's rules and you die before you make amends, then you can go to hell, which is an awful place. And he said that controlling people through fear was never part of what he preached or what he intended. And he said that's a bad part because that sort of fear has really been harmful to a lot of people, who would go to sleep at night and not sleep because I've done something, and if I die before I can get to confession, I'm going to go to hell, or that my son or daughter or husband, wife might do the same. And so it's caused a lot of unnecessary anxiety, and he wishes they hadn't done that. And so that was sort of like, as Muhammad had regrets about what happened in some aspects with Islam, Jesus had the same thing with Christianity, and he really wishes that those things did not happen.
He preached love, didn't he?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally preached love.
Yeah. Now, what about hell? Is there a hell?
Is there a hell? No, there's no hell. No, there's no hell. That's just a fiction created by Christian holy men, in fact, and holy men of other religions. It's just a way to control people through fear. It's sort of like, if you don't do what we say, you can end up in hell, which is an awful place where you'll burn forever, which is a very frightening thought for a lot of people. Albert says hell doesn't exist. When we pass from this planet and go to the spirit side, we all go to the spirit side, and there's no judgment. Nobody judges us, and there's no punishment. There's no hell. And so we all go back to the same place. And so it's just an unfortunate quirk in many religions, including Christianity, that they decided to instill fear in people about hell and the devil to control them. But there's no hell and there's no devil.
Yeah, don't we like get to judge ourselves?
Yeah, we do, because because basically when we transition over to the spirit side, we have what's called a life review, where we go over all the aspects of the life we've just finished, and we can look at it and say, okay, well, there I did good, and there I messed up and I made mistakes, and so in effect you judge yourself, but not in a harsh way. It's really a learning tool. It's not like to judge ourselves and then feel regret and remorse, because you don't feel that on the spirit.
You don't judge and condemn. You just look and see what you could do better, maybe.
That's perfect. That's a good way of saying it.
Yeah.
We don't judge and condemn ourselves. We just look at it as a learning tool.
Yeah, and what about people that do good works and always? Are they going to have a better reward, like some people say? I don't know about that. What do you think about that?
Well,
like I'm thinking about what's her name? The lady that did so much. So much good works, helping people, and
Mother Teresa.
Yes, Mother Teresa. Thank you.
Well, it's not a reward in the sense that somebody's up there saying, okay, well, you get 2 gold stars because you were better, and you just get a blue star. It doesn't quite work that way. But the reward they get is looking back on their lives and understanding that they have done a lot of good things on planet Earth, helped other people, and so it's that self-satisfaction that they get when they cross over. That is their reward, and they feel good about that, because that's really they don't need any. There's no material rewards. There's nothing different that they can get except the satisfaction and the praise from other souls about how they've done a great job, and so that's their reward.
And I think that's the best reward to get anyhow.
Absolutely.
Because you feel rewarded in yourself that I've done the best I can do for this day.
Yep, absolutely.
And so now we're getting close to the end of the show, but I wanted to ask you, is there anything that we have not gone over that you'd really, really like to share in the next 2 minutes, 3 minutes?
Well, I always go back to sort of one of the messages that Albert has always given me. He says, you're a soul having a journey on Earth. You chose to come here to learn things and experience certain challenges so that you can grow and evolve as a soul. And so you should remember, you can never go wrong, never become lost. You're always going to end up back on the spirit side when your physical body dies, no matter what happens or what you do. So he says, don't take life so seriously. Lighten up, laugh more, and enjoy your ride, because you're always going to end up back at the same place that you came from. And so don't take it so seriously. Laugh more, smile a lot, and enjoy your journey.
And don't you think another thing is to really practice living in the moment?
Yes, absolutely. That's clearly part of it, and something that he's mentioned to me over and over again as part of how to get the best out of your journey on this planet.
It is, because I find that, to me, I like to, when I'm talking to you now, I'm present at the moment. I'm thinking about what we're talking about. I'm not thinking about what I need to do after the show and all that. And I think it's the secret to happiness is to be present in the moment, to enjoy every single moment.
Absolutely. You're totally right. And if more people did that, we'd be living in a much happier planet. We
sure would. Now, let's go over your contact information again. Would you please, Garnet, so the folks can get a hold of you and ask you. And do you have anywhere on your website where you answer questions for people?
Not as such, but my email address is on my website, and people can just certainly contact me by email, and I'm happy to respond to their comments or their questions.
That's so lovely. Thank you. And
my website, again, is garnetschulhauser.com. And that's hard to remember, but if they Google any of my book titles, like Dancing on a Stamp or Dance of Eternal Rapture, they will get to my website, and I'm happy to hear from your listeners.
Yeah, and will you spell your last name, just to make sure they get it right?
Sure, it's Schulhauser.
Thank you very much. And I don't know, I've really enjoyed talking to you, and I know Johnny Enoch sends his greetings to you and says keep up the good work. And I hope you have a happy new year, and I know you will with your family, and I'm so glad that your family's on board, and that makes it wonderful, doesn't it, when you know that you're on board with everyone.
Totally, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and what would you say? What would your message for the new year be for our listeners?
The message is just the basic one is try to stifle your negative emotions and fully embrace love, compassion, forgiveness for other humans, for yourself, and for the other creatures on our planet.
Sounds lovely. And also, folks, keep your emails coming to AnneMarieEvers@shaw.ca. And visit my website, AnneMarieEvers.com, and listen to some of the very short, colorful videos we have on there. I'm sure you'll like them, and there's some that would be good for the children to listen to, too. And I am doing some work on a children's book now, too, so to get that out there as well. So I believe affirmations are good for every single one of us, and I believe in affirmations, and I want to say thank you so much, Garnet. I really appreciate you coming on the show, and I know how busy you are, taking time out of your busy life to spend an hour with us. That's wonderful.
I thank you for inviting me. I'm delighted to be here, and as always, you're a very gracious and charming host.
Oh, thank you. And, you know, I'm going to say, too, that you're probably going to be on again because you're going to have another book or two coming out. I can already feel them coming out, right?
Yeah. Yes, there will be a book 5. I'm not sure when, but it's coming.
Yeah, it's coming. Well, in other words, folks will pick up this current book, pick up all his books, because when you read them all, then you get the big picture. And I know with having all of them, you can refer back. And the last one, like we talked about, the 4th one is Dance of Eternal Rapture. And I think that is so beautiful. And remember, folks, it's understanding who we are on the human journey, and this is Ageless Wisdom from the Spirit Realm by the way of Albert and Garnet Schulhauser. And thank you so much, folks, and we'll be back again, and have a wonderful, happy New Year from all of us, and God bless. Thank you again, Garnet. We appreciate it.
Well, if you have a problem and you don't know where to go, just dial up the internet and listen to the show. Tune in to Dr. Evers, she'll lift your spirits high. Her affirmations lead you from the darkness to the light. Say thank you, thank you, thank you, believe with all your soul. When properly done, they always work, you know. Oh, just say an affirmation. Love, health, and abundance beginning to show. Oh, just say an affirmation. Show your gratitude and the blessings will flow. Oh, just say an affirmation. Love, health, and abundance beginning to show. Oh, just say an affirmation. Show your gratitude and the blessings will flow. Yeah.
There's no better time to experience a Lexus than with the Lexus all-wheel drive event. Your epic journeys don't end with icy roads. You won't be thwarted by snow-covered highways because you're on a mission to get third graders to a toboggan hill. Experience inspired design and performance with Lexus during the Lexus all-wheel drive event.
Lease a 2019 Lexus NX 300 for as low as 0.9% APR with delivery credits up to $2,500. Visit your local Lexus dealer for details.